Welcome to the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I'm Deborah Herlax-Enos, a small-town girl turned TV nutritionist and healthy living expert. I design health programs for the average guy or gal, including those average guys named Metallica. On September 1st, 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I asked every oncologist the same question, why did I get cancer? But none of my doctors had good answers for me. I wanted answers, and that's why I started this podcast. I want to help you to lower your cancer risk and provide self-care tips for those in the battle. I'm getting answers, and I want to share them with you. Okay, I just spent an hour with Dr. Josh Axe. I got to tell you, I could probably do a whole show on my takeaways, but probably one of my more interesting takeaways was the role of mindset in healing. Dr. Axe talks about neuroplasticity and basically where our thoughts go, there goes our health. So if we're thinking positive thoughts about body parts or, my back hurts or, maybe I even have cancer. If you're thinking positive thoughts, your mindset is strong. It's amazing how healing can come out of that. There's lots of data, there's lots of research, and Dr. Axe has a new book coming out in April called Think This, Not That. And just a small story with my personal story, I have not been a good sleeper for most of my life. I get into bed, I start thinking too much. And so what I've been doing the last couple of weeks is I get into bed and I immediately start saying to myself silently, I'm a great sleeper. I'm a great sleeper. And I have to tell you, within 5 minutes, I'm asleep. So you got to listen to today's podcast. It is just full of so much wisdom. We could have probably talked for 2 or 3 hours. Give it a listen. All right, everyone. Welcome to Why Did I Get Cancer with my very special guest, Dr. Josh Axe. And I could say you don't need an introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. So you have your natural medicine doctor. You've got your chiropractic degree from, you were at Kentucky campus?
Palmer.
Is that where Palmer College? Okay.
Yeah, Palmer.
Yes, certified nutrition specialist. And whenever I need to check facts, I actually go to your website. It is a wealth of information. And I know you'll also just break it down into digestible bites. So welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's really good to have you here. And we'll talk about your new book as well. But first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for your contribution to my article about the lymphatic system in the Costco connection in January. And, the lymphatic system can be a little hard to understand. And it might not sound sexy, but it's a really important system to be aware of. And if it's not functioning well, you probably can't be well. Is that a true statement?
Yeah. The way that some people describe the lymphatic system, now this may not sound very appealing or sexy, but it's sort of like a sewage system for the body. I mean, you've got red blood cells and white blood cells and a lot of these cells in your body that we need to, once they do their job or they need to be eliminated, that they can be flushed out of the body. And so your lymphatic system is really a big part of your immune system and detoxification system. It's where both those systems really meet. And so, when your lymphatic system is really moving as it should, your body is able to get rid of viral infections and Lyme and a number of other things that are cancer cells that are dead now, that have been exterminated, that the body needs to eliminate. So lymphatic drainage is really, really important, both for the immune system and for the detoxification system. So it's very connected to the liver, very connected as well to the blood, and very connected to, as I mentioned, our immune cells.
So, I mean, it sounds as important as our blood. I mean, it really is probably in the same category.
Yeah, it's sort of part 2. After the blood does what it's supposed to do, it needs to move on and out of the system. One of the things that's really important for it is its ability to eliminate, as I mentioned, toxins, senescent cells. These are cells that, when they accumulate in our body, secrete these inflammatory markers. There's a term going around that I think everybody should become familiar with. It's inflammaging. So inflammation plus aging. Inflammaging, one of the biggest reasons we age is over time, our cells, some of our cells stop working as well. So think about it like this. If you've ever had an injury and your body produced scar tissue, right? Scar tissue is a type of tissue that can work and function, but not as good as healthy young tissue. And so all that being said, we have these senescent cells in our body that cause us to age more quickly. Your lymphatic system is the system that helps eliminate and get rid of those cells. And so it's like I said, it's very, very important that it's working optimally. Everything from
Hmm.
cancer prevention to cancer detoxification to, just overall having a healthy immune system.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm so intrigued by this topic because I had a lymph node removed during one of my cancer surgeries.
Yep.
Is there an age when the lymphatic system starts to slow down or malfunction?
Well, generally speaking, and let me say my mom did as well. When my mom had breast cancer, she
Hmm.
had a mastectomy and had her
Hmm. Me
her
too.
some lymph nodes removed there too. And so yeah, when we think about age, when most people on average age starts going the other way in terms of your body starts functioning less than optimally, typically at 25 years of age.
Oh.
That's that tends to be like, for instance, collagen production. We know once you hit
Hmm.
25 or 26, that's when our body stops producing less collagen over time. Now, I think it's possible that for some people it could be as late as 30 years old, but I do think for
Okay.
most people it's probably around that 25 years of age. And that's where supplementation and other things become even more important. Now, there was a recent article out, actually a scientific study that was really fascinating that said certain organs age faster than others for certain people. So
Mm.
if you have this study, again, it was really fascinating. So they looked at people and they said, well, when we tested some people, like let's say we had one person, okay, let's say a woman who's 40 years old. Her heart might be the age of a 30-year-old, but her lymphatic system is the age of a 70-year-old. Okay. Or her thyroid is the age of a 70-year-old, but her liver is the age of a 40-year-old. It's what it probably should be. And so then you
Mm.
really know, well, this is an organ that's aged faster than other organs. And that's an
Mhm.
organ we need to really focus on regenerating the cells. I mean, that's really key. I think when we look at the future of medicine, it's how do we regenerate the organs and the cells? Because when you think about, well, why is your thyroid not well? Uh, or any organ, because like for instance your red blood cells are completely new every 4 months. Your blood
Okay.
is 100% new every 4 months. Your gut lining is new every 4 to 14 days. Your
Oh.
liver is new, so most of your organs like your liver
Mhm.
are new every 150 to 500 days. So every year approximately you have a completely new liver. So if your body is regenerating properly and healing properly, you're going to have a new liver. But if it's not, your liver is going to stay stagnant or ill or even get worse. And so part of what we want to be able to do is do things that help regenerate that tissue. And there are there's really three main components of this that I've helped patients with and people over time. And it's like, we need to increase cellular energy to the
Mhm.
area. We need to bring it nutrients and blood supply and eliminate the toxins that are affecting it. So for instance, if somebody has a thyroid that's sick, like hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, we need to get energy there. Well, a big part of that is the adrenal glands. We have to get those
Mhm.
healthy, and you need to get really good sleep at night. There's also some nutrients that are very important for that, like vitamin B12. Herbs like ginseng or ashwagandha are very good. There's also, eliminating the toxins that are going to affect it. And then which could be heavy metals, especially.
Mhm.
And then there's the building blocks that are important for thyroid health, like iodine, selenium, thiamine, and others are really crucial to it as well. So, anyways, I think we're going to see a lot more discussion around cellular regeneration in the future, and helping people heal. But to sort of, I know this is a long way of answering your question, but I do think one thing everybody wants to consider is, do I have an organ that's aging faster than another? It's not just 25 years of age. It's also, what is my specific issue, and how do I get more blood flow there? How do I get more nutrients there, and do things to help it heal?
Right. And so, sure, you get blood work done, you find out you have an underactive thyroid or, something going on with that. But how do you know where to start?
Yeah, well, I think here's a few ways. One is your symptoms, of course. Your body is trying to tell you something. That's
Mhm.
one way. Another way is more of a Western approach, and that's blood work.
Yeah.
certain blood work will show. Now, one of the issues with some blood work today is some of it can be inaccurate, or the ranges really aren't what they should be. Like, for instance, there's a
Mhm.
lot of people who maybe don't have type 2 diabetes, but they have metabolic syndrome, also known as
Yep.
syndrome X. And so, and that's causing certain areas of their body to age more quickly. So blood work is more the Western approach. From an Eastern approach, seeing an acupuncturist. I mean, acupuncturists and that Oriental medicine does an incredible job of being able to tell exactly what's going on in the body. In fact, I mentioned
Mhm.
this as I was referencing this earlier. If we want to help an organ regenerate, that's part of what acupuncture does. Is they move they call it energy. We could call it ATP. We could call it electrical signals in Western medicine.
Mhm.
But basically, they're sending energy, blood flow, and more signals to that organ to help it regenerate and heal more quickly. So I would say
Right.
those would be the three things I would say: is blood work from a Western perspective, seeing an acupuncturist from an Eastern perspective, and then of course just listening to our bodies. I think is the other way we're able to tell, hey, what exactly is going on with me. But I actually think
Yeah.
acupuncture is probably the most accurate way of all.
I love that. I have been an early adopter of acupuncture, even when I had 0 money and, horrible health insurance. I just found an acupuncture school near where I
Oh
lived,
yeah,
so I could go there, and for $20, I'd have 5 students working on me, and then the teacher would come in and say, "Oh, yeah, you did this," so I got the most amazing care for $20.
that's
So,
great.
you don't have to be wealthy to be healthy.
Yeah.
There's ways around it, and as prices go up and this and that goes up, I hear so often, I can't afford to be healthy. It's cheaper for me to get a bag of Doritos than it is a bag of organic broccoli. And so what do you say to resistance like that?
Yeah, well, people that say that, here's what I would say, and I'm trying to say this with as much compassion as possible.
Mhm.
If you really want to be healthy, if you have a big enough purpose and reason why, you will. I would say
Yeah.
that most people, and by the way, I'm not talking about the 1% of people. There's probably
Mhm.
1% of people in the United States. Now, there's a much larger portion outside the United States, but I would say that's living with a limited mindset, limiting beliefs, and a victim mindset. And I'll give you an example of this. Like, and part of it is like, I know, but then I'm sharing with everybody to do what they do. Let's say I only had a very, very limited budget. And you know, let's say, whatever that might be. Well,
Mhm.
you can still eat real food. It doesn't have to be organic broccoli. Let's talk about rice. You know how much a bag of rice is and how long that'll
Right.
last you? An incredibly long time. How about
Yeah.
beans? You know how,
Yeah.
to do a bag of beans, you know how much that'll last you a really long time.
Mhm.
What if you go and buy in bulk, go to a farm and buy a full chicken or a part of a cow and save that in maybe you go to a local garage sale and you buy a freezer and save that and
Mhm.
pull that out, or you go hunting, maybe with a
Yeah.
friend, and if you're, if I'm not saying everybody's into hunting, but if you are, you could, and
Yeah.
so I think there are a lot of ways if you tend to be wise and you tend to really want to be healthy, there's a way. Like, I didn't have a lot
Yeah.
of money growing up. My family was, I would say, lower middle class. Now
Mm.
we weren't very poor, but my parents like both worked. Like, my mom made $7,000 a year teaching, um,
Wow.
and then my dad made like $28,000 a year. My dad used to work on power lines. Like, he worked out,
Mhm.
for a company called Bell Telephone in Ohio,
Oh,
and he
yeah.
was
Oh,
the guy
yeah.
out, freezing cold winters in Ohio working on.
Yep, out
And so
there, yep,
that was my.
without hazard pay
Yeah,
probably.
exactly. So that was my
Yeah.
dad growing up, and my parents found a way. Now, listen, it wasn't perfect, but it was just a lot of
Mhm.
home cooked meals with, again, rice, beans. We bought meat. We'd have small portions of vegetables,
Mhm.
and we'd buy in bulk as much as we could. Use coupons, and my family found a
Yeah.
way to do it.
I take a fair amount of supplements. I admit it. But I'm also starting to use them on my skin topically. And one of the ones I use is vitamin C serum from the Body Deli. After a long day in the sun, I'm surfing, I'm swimming, I'm walking with friends. I just feel like sometimes my skin needs a little extra superfood boost at night. So I'll put this vitamin C serum on at night, put a moisturizer on top. I feel like my skin just looks more luminous. and it certainly just looks a little brighter in the morning. You can use the code ENOS15 to get 15% off. Go to bodydeli.com and I hope you enjoy it.
There are some people that are in a very, very tough place. So maybe that's a goal a year from now, and you do everything you can to get there. But I think for 99% of people in the United States, in Western countries today, it is possible to do it if you know how, which I'm sharing how right now for people to do. And I think so much of this is related to mindset, by the way. You know, I published a book that's just coming out, which I think is just a game changer for people. It's called Think This, Not That. Our thoughts become our reality. There's a quote from the book of Proverbs that says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you think and believe I can get healthy, I can find a way to get real food, you will. And so a lot of times, though, we have these limiting beliefs, and it might have been something that a parent said to us one time, or a teacher. Like I was told when I was in high school, a freshman year English, I had very poor grades. I almost didn't graduate high school. My grades were so poor, in fact.
Wow.
And I had a teacher tell me to stay after class. And she said, hey, what do you want to do when you graduate? And I said, I want to become a doctor. And she laughed and she said, you'll never become a doctor. She said, your grades are too low. And by the way, it was really heartbreaking for me because the year before my mom had breast cancer, and that's when she had her mastectomy. She went through chemotherapy, lost all her hair. And so I had seen the pain my mom had went through. And so I was very in tune to, I want to help people like my mom. I want to help them use food as medicine and heal naturally. And so when she told me that, it really sort of broke my heart. And then I thought 2 weeks later, I went into a doctor and I was diagnosed with ADHD. And so then I thought, well, gosh, not only am I not smart, I'm like medically not smart. There's something wrong with me. And as a freshman, a 14-year-old, I didn't know any better. So I just kind of gave up that dream. And then finally in college, the only way I got into a college I wanted to go to, it was a college, like it wasn't my first choice, but a college I wanted to go to was, I didn't get in. But they sent me a letter and they said, if you come and do summer school, and if you average above a 3.0, we'll let you in. And so I didn't want to be the kid to not go to college. So I went and went and I said, I'm going to try. Because in high school, I really didn't try because I just thought I'm not smart. What's the use? And I went, and by the way, my first class, it was, so the high school, it was freshman English 101 for high school. Well, this was English 101 as a freshman in college. Wow. And we have our first assignment. It's a paper. I go and work really hard on it. I turn it in. And the teacher, it's like deja vu. A few days after I hand it in, she says, Josh, can you stay after class? And I thought, oh no. I thought I blew it. Not again. Exactly. And she said, hey, what do you want to do? She said, what's your major? And I said, of course, a freshman in college, like, I don't know. And she said, well, I really think you should consider being an English or a journalism paper because you're a really talented writer. She said, I think you could, she said, I think she said, you got the highest grade in the class. You got an A+ on this paper. She said, great work. And for me, I'll compare this to something medical, like an organ transplant. Like I had like a mindset transplant and a belief transplant about myself because I went from believing I wasn't smart, having low self-esteem throughout high school. And that one teacher told me, Josh, you're capable. You're a great writer. You have this talent. And literally then, like throughout college, I went and got above a 3.0 GPA. And then when I went to Johns Hopkins University, got in there and averaged a 3.9 GPA at Johns Hopkins. And I just share that to say, not to brag, but just to say, like, I went from being that kid that barely graduated high school to that. Right. And it was just a single limiting belief I was able to break through. I think that there's a lot of people today, Deborah, who have a belief of, I can't get healthy. Maybe their doctor told them, you've got to be on this drug the rest of your life. Or they thought, well, my mom had this, and so I'm going to have it. I'll have to struggle with this. And the reality is almost all of the time, those are false narratives. And I really believe if people are able to create a new belief and overcome these limiting beliefs, they can see a breakthrough in their relationships, their health, every area of life. And that's why I wrote the book, Think This, Not That. And if people want to experience a breakthrough, I'd encourage you to go to joshax.com. I've got, by the way, hundreds of dollars worth of free content I'll give you, including a workbook and other things if you get the book through joshax.com. Great. I wrote this because really it changed my life, being able to break through some of those limiting beliefs. And I wanted to help people be able to do the same. And I saw the same thing with my mom, by the way. I think when my mom was going through cancer, Deborah, one of the most important parts of her healing was changing her mindset and her emotions and her beliefs. My mom, I would say she was a people pleaser. Like she really wanted to just make people happy. And
Mhm.
anytime anybody would give her criticism, she took it incredibly personally. So
Right.
my mom had had a lot of fear and worry, fear of disappointing others. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, in
Yeah.
Chinese medicine, it's known that different emotions that are negative affect different organ systems and can even create cancer in certain areas. So worry, that
Mhm.
emotion is tied to breast cancer,
Oh,
specifically.
I've been looking for this information and haven't been able to find it because I'm a certified nutritionist. I run half marathons. I do yoga. I've been eating organic. I haven't used deodorant with aluminum in 25 years. Why did I get breast cancer? This is why I started this podcast. I needed to know the why. And Dr. Axe, I think for me, what I've discerned is that it was mindset, and it was my thoughts, and it was my reactions, and it was worry, it was people pleasing, and a lack of forgiveness toward others.
Yes. It's so
Mhm.
good because, and let me hit on a few of these others that are really important for knowing which emotions make which organs sick, which
Okay.
systems. So we mentioned here worry. Worry is tied to the breast and the digestive system, the upper digestive system.
Hmm.
And by the way, so this is getting into the details here, but um, why would somebody get cancer on a left side and not the right side, or the right side and not their left side?
Mhm.
Right? It's not, this
Yeah.
isn't genetic. It's not, oh, I had a left-sided breast cancer gene. That doesn't
Mm.
make any sense.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
here's the reason why. The left side in Chinese medicine is tied to the yang. And so if a woman doesn't feel feminine or
Hmm.
beautiful, or isn't in touch with her feminine side, and doesn't feel
Mhm.
like she's, if it's that sort of issue, it'll breast cancer will show up on the left side. If a woman on the right
Wow.
side is overnourishing, so think about this. If you're a mom and you've got 3 kids or 5 or 8, a lot of kids, and you feel like you're giving and giving and giving and giving and
Mhm.
giving, that will cause breast cancer on the other side. Because so the breasts, we know there's 2 primary roles in society, and it's tied to sort of the, sexual attraction, but
Mhm.
also nourishing an infant.
Yeah.
And so that sexual attraction, not feeling feminine, connected with in that way, feeling beautiful, that's the one. And then nourishing, but that sort of emotional, spiritual, if you overnourish and you don't get anything in return and don't
Mm.
rest and have right self-care, it'll cause it on the other side. And then, of course, I mentioned the digestion. If somebody has a lot of worry, you'll even get an upset stomach. So worry
Mhm.
affects those systems of the body. And then when we look at fear, this is obvious. We all know this one, but that's really adrenals, kidneys, and reproductive organs. Because
Mm.
when you are in a fight or flight state, your body is pumping out cortisol and adrenaline and those stress hormones. And if that's too much over time, that just that'll really fatigue the adrenals, sometimes
Mhm.
the kidney, and then a lot of those reproductive system organs. So fear. And then
Right.
we have the liver and your detoxification system, your liver, gallbladder, and parts of your lymphatic system, though lymphatic is actually connected to 2 areas. But the liver is really if you've got anger,
Mm.
frustration, resentment, bitterness, or unforgiveness, that
Mhm.
really affects the liver and your body's ability to detoxify. And the other one is the immune system, and that's your lungs and your colon. 90% of your bacteria and your microbiome live in your colon, the lower part of your digestive tract there. And so that is really tied to if you've had something happen in the past and it
Mhm.
still bothers you today. So it could be
Mm.
emotional trauma, it could be physical abuse, sexual abuse, anything that's happened in the past. And you're
Wow.
living with the shame or regret or something like
Mm.
that, and you haven't been able to let go and move on, that
Mhm.
shuts down and weakens your immune system. And by the way, this is why unforgiveness is probably the most toxic of all the emotions in terms
Wow.
of cancer. It's the hardest
Okay.
on cancer because unforgiveness is you are resentful about something that's happened in the past. The resentment's affecting the liver, your
Mhm.
detoxification. The thing happening in the past is affecting your whole immune system. And those are the 2 primary systems that are responsible for killing off cancer cells and keeping you from having those. And so, and the last one here is anxiety. We know that
Mhm.
can raise your blood pressure. That affects the cardiovascular system and the nervous system.
Right.
anxiety the most. And so, but and there are fields now, like German new medicine touches on a little bit of this, but really Chinese medicine has been talking about this for thousands of years. And
For
so,
thousands of years.
yeah.
Right.
And so,
Right.
but this is why it is so critical if somebody wants to live a long time, stay healthy, reverse cancer, any of those things, that they take care of their mental health and their
Mm.
emotions and their mindset, because I actually think it's a bigger cause of cancer than diet and lifestyle, or at least
Wow.
equal to.
Let me repeat that. So our mindset, forgiveness, lack of forgiveness, all of those things can be as important as diet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay. I mean, that makes so much sense because we're eating 3 or 4 times a day, but we are thinking
that's right.
15 hours a day,
And
you
here's
know?
the other thing, Deborah, 95% of our thoughts are unconscious. And so those
Really?
unconscious thoughts, when you're walking around, you like, again, the limiting belief. I would walk around all day. I'd never said it one time.
Mhm.
And maybe I'd think it once a few times a day. But subconsciously in my head, it's I wasn't smart. I'm not smart. I'm not smart. I'm not smart.
Right.
Or my mom not even thinking about it. She didn't realize it, but I need to please this person and this person. And if I don't please one single person, I'm a failure.
Oh
It's
boy.
yeah.
Yeah. And that also, I would say, is so much more predominant with women than with men.
It is. It's funny. It
Yeah.
is. It is.
Mhm.
And there are other reasons why men get illness, but with women in particular, I would say it can be more predominant, because this would be a longer rabbit hole. But I'll just say this: women tend to process thoughts more often, go deep. They tend to obsess more on it. Like
Hmm.
think about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. That tends to be
Mhm.
more frequent. Where men will just tune out. They'll just go numb more often.
It's
But
so
yeah,
true. It's
yeah,
so true. I say to my husband, he's Army guy. So he, served our country. He was a helicopter pilot. He just knows how to put things in a box
yeah, yeah.
and not think about them again because that was his military training. Whereas I'm an over communicator. I used to be an overthinker, but what I realized is overthinking was ruining my health. It was killing my energy. Overthinking kills your sleep. You get into bed and then you replay all these scenarios from the day. And, you were talking about mindset. And I was also diagnosed with ADHD. I was on Ritalin as a kid. So,
Yeah,
the mind is
yeah.
just like, it just goes. And so what I've been doing, and Dr. Axe, I just started this about 2 weeks ago, instead of getting into bed and thinking, "Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I did," now I am prophesying over myself and I get into bed and I say, I'm a great sleeper.
That's great.
I'm a great sleeper. And instead of taking an hour to fall asleep, I'm asleep in probably 5 minutes, which has never happened in my life. So now I'm thinking, what other stories am I telling myself? I have so much more awareness post-cancer
Yeah,
of the narrative that is going in my head that is limiting. I'm not smart enough. I'm not, wealthy enough, pretty enough, connected enough. All of those things, I'm done. Cancer cured me of that.
yes. Well,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, what you're saying here is so important because, and by the way, and I saw this clinically when I think about, I and I had a practice that was predominantly families and a lot of women, a lot of moms,
Hmm.
and overthinking is one of the is one of those things that will keep you sick. I can't tell you how many patients I had who stayed sick or didn't see as big of a breakthrough as they should because of overthinking. And this is why I touched on these things in my practice, is to help, because I think a lot of times people go to the doctor and a doctor would never think about the importance of emotional health, or they
Nope.
might mention the word stress, but not even tell them what to do. Hey, reduce
Hmm.
stress.
Right. Good
Like,
idea.
yeah, that's not that helpful. And so I really made
Right.
this a big part of my practice, is trying to give people hope, encourage them, bring up things like overthinking or these different emotions to,
Hmm.
for them to address them. And I would help them address them in order to start to heal. So again, it's really, really important. And oftentimes overthinking it's a couple things. It's one, it's oftentimes you trying to control things maybe you can't control,
Hmm.
is very, very common.
Yep.
Um, that's probably the most common thing. And the other thing I would say overthinking is that you're too busy and you have so many things going on that you're trying to figure out how to juggle it all. I got to do this. And you feel like you've got to achieve. You're in this achievement mentality where I got to be super mom. I got to be super wife. I got to be super career now. I mean, this is literally what society has put on women today. And some of it, it's actually a lot of women's fault because women started saying, well, we don't need men and we want to do it all. That's a whole nother topic on masculinity.
That's a whole other podcast.
Femininity. But my point here is that, we're supposed to be doing things together. It should be a team. It should be a family. And I think, and I see this because I've ran, really large organizations like a supplement company and other thing, wellness company. And I do see some women, they really feel like I need to be a CEO and the perfect mom and the perfect wife and have hobby. Like it's just, and the pressure's crushing.
Right. It is crushing. Yeah. It's crushing. It's overwhelming. And at the end of all that, they're still not taking care of themselves. So you talked earlier about, having an awareness of your body. You can't have an awareness of your body if you are checking this box, checking that box. I'm super mom. I just got a promotion at work. We can't do it all. And I think it's time to just admit, you can't do it all.
Yeah.
And you can't have it all, but you can have joy.
That's right. Men need women, women need men. We need to prioritize and do what we were designed to do, what we love, what God's put in our heart to do. And so I think the more that people can get in that position of really, here's the now I want to give this example, which might be helpful. Warren Buffett, he's the most successful investor of all time in terms of finances and wealth. And when we think about Warren Buffett, they asked him, they said, hey, how have you stayed so successful? What are your keys? Well, his number one key was ignore what media and culture are saying. Ignore completely all media, all culture, all the outside pressure. And I think if someone were to go and just completely ignore what's going on with the media and culture and what everybody is telling them, these opinion people that don't have any wisdom, and they'd only listen to the 1% of people that are the most wise, most virtuous, most good people that have done the greatest good on the earth, what their life would look so much more simple.
Make sure you tune in to next week's episode, Part 2 with Dr. Josh Axe, where we take a deeper dive into the last year that he has had. And I have to tell you, it was rough. He couldn't walk for a year. His parents actually even came and helped take care of him. He learned a lot during that really dark season and even ended up writing a book. So tune in next week. You've got to hear this story. Okay, we are rolling into the cold season, which means we are rolling into Thanksgiving. And as long as we're talking about Thanksgiving, I'm going to confess to you that I don't really like the traditional Thanksgiving. And mainly because I've just never really enjoyed turkey. However, I will say that I tried ButcherBox turkey a couple of years ago, and it was moist and it had a lot of flavor, just really depth of flavor. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm 50-something years old and I've realized I really like turkey. So I was so happy when ButcherBox reached out to me and they said, we've got a great deal for your community. Perfect for Thanksgiving. It's only October 21st through November 19th. But in your first box for a new user, you can get an entire turkey, a turkey breast, or a whole spiral ham for free and $20 off of your first box. So go to butcherbox.com/Enos, then use the code Enos, and you get to pick your own protein for your first box, $20 off of your first box. And it's just perfect timing for Thanksgiving. So hope you enjoy it. Hey, y'all, can you do me a favor today and go and leave a review of this podcast? I know that the more great reviews, wink, wink, emphasis on great, reviews that I get, along with more downloads and more subscribers, that pushes this podcast out to people who might normally not even find it. And the reason I started this podcast and my real heart for starting this podcast is that I needed this information. It wasn't available. And so I started a podcast so that I could be a blessing to others. So you're a blessing to me just by being here. And again, thank you for your support. Thank you for your positive reviews and all of the notes that you send me. And also just wanted to say, hey, keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. And if you need medical advice, please reach out to your team. That is going to be just the best source for you because they know you. So again, I hope you enjoyed this podcast.